Nobody expects to go to the gym and getting killed as soon as you leave the gym. And he has kids here now that have to go the rest of their lives without their dad. And all we have left is all the memories and pictures and videos. That's it.
And this was a preparation that I found out in talking with Stephen's wife, that they were preparing to come here. The preparation, things were being put in order, and things that he wanted to keep there and leave there and not bring with them, because all he wanted to do was get back home. But he didn't know back home would be back home.
Trevor Auld, who is in Buffalo, New York, where they've already had record snowfall for the day. It's only just after 7 a.m. there. And good morning, Trevor. I'm going to be your mom. Where is your hat, young man?
This is weather you can wear, Amy. I knew that both you and my mom were going to say something about that. But listen, we are shattering records, as you said, in an hour. They got a foot of snow already at the airport. This is downtown. You can see it still coming down heavily. They have had the plows through here already. It was so bad this morning that while we were setting up this shot, a plow got stuck. A member of our crew actually had to tow them out of here. And I know that Buffalo is synonymous with a lot of snow. This isn't necessarily rare, but we've broken the record by a couple inches. We're probably going to pile 6 inches more on top of this through the day. And some areas north of Buffalo may end up with 2 feet of snow.
On Monday, January 17th, Stephen Perry Addison was laid to rest in his hometown of Buffalo, New York. If fate saw fit to drive home the absurdity of the events surrounding his senseless murder, the record-shattering 16.5 inches of snowfall seemed almost appropriate. The fact that his funeral fell on the MLK holiday seemed almost poetic. King's rallying cries for unity, nonviolence, and racial justice were as relevant today as they ever were before. The flurries would persist into the morning of Stephen's funeral, preventing even the minister from attending. What the snow couldn't do, however, was sway the dogged resolve of the family, friends, and brothers in arms who braved the elements to pay their final respects. The live broadcast of Stephen's homegoing revealed far more than his headlines could ever hope to. He was an adopted child, raised by an extended network of loved ones. The importance of family was something he understood all too well. He was good-looking, a gym rat, excelling at sports and personal fitness since the days of his youth. At the age of 19, he enlisted in the armed services, proudly serving in the U.S. Army. He was good with his hands, an HVAC specialist and tradesman. His favorite athletes were Kobe Bryant and Giannis. Hotline Bling scored the slideshow playing at the ceremony. The man knew how to have a good time. But his most enduring contributions to the world he'd leave behind were his loving union to wife of almost 7 years, Justina, and his children, Heaven, Honesty, Messiah, Aries, and Skylar. Tragedy robbed the 32-year-old of a full lifespan, but what it couldn't do was rob him of the one treasure he had already received: a full life. A life full of vigor, a life full of laughter, a life full of love, a life full of meaning and of value, and a life full of plans. Plans ultimately fulfilled in tragic irony. Stephen's funeral was a homegoing in both senses of the word. The native Buffalonian hadn't actually lived there for many years. Just 2 weeks prior, he was 700 miles away, packing moving boxes in preparation for his permanent return. Little did he know he'd be arriving in a casket. Fayetteville, North Carolina was the city Stephen called home on the morning of January 3rd, 2022. He wouldn't be there for much longer, however. Later that week, his wife would be coming in from Buffalo, New York. She'd help him pack his last possessions, and the two would hit the road to reunite with their eagerly awaiting children. Many major life changes were on the horizon, but one thing that wouldn't change today was Stephen's workout regimen. He began this day the same way he began many others before it. He hopped onto his motorcycle and made the 6-minute drive from his apartment complex to the neighborhood Planet Fitness a mile and a half away. The events that followed his workout remain the subject of criminal investigation to this very day. After finishing his workout, Stephen would leave Planet Fitness, making a right on the Skybow Road. 60 seconds later, he'd come face to face with the men that would take his life. Stephen's apartment was just around the corner, and he saw his turn quickly approaching. In an effort to merge onto the extreme right lane, he weaved his bike through the bustling 5-lane roadway. He'd make it into his lane, but not without cutting off the driver of a dark green Chevy Silverado. The enraged motorist stalked Stephen down at the red light, pulling up directly beside him as he waited to make the right turn home. According to on-scene witnesses, 26-year-old Roger Nobles Jr. would roll down the passenger side window to give Stephen a piece of his mind. The shouting match would reach a crescendo when Nobles hopped out of the vehicle to confront Addison personally. Roger's father, 51-year-old Roger Nobles Sr., sat at the driver's seat of the pickup, watching the dispute through the open passenger side door. He wouldn't watch for long before raising a handgun and unloading into Stephen's chest. The entire incident transpired in a matter of moments, the final seconds of which were captured on video by an onlooking motorist. A topic of note is the unflinching reaction of the junior. If Stephen's shooting took him by surprise, he certainly didn't appear to show it. Nobles quickly returned to his father's truck, and the two would drive off into the distance, leaving Stephen to bleed out into the city streets. Stephen was 3/10 of a mile from home. Medics later arrived on the scene. Stephen would narrowly survive the trip to the hospital, only to succumb to injuries later that day. Fayetteville PD would apprehend the senior Nobles at his trailer home, charging him with first-degree murder. It would hold the distinction of the first recorded homicide of 2022. The younger Nobles would face no charges. Insufficient evidence would absolve him of accessory to murder, and under North Carolina law, he bore no obligation to call police, render medical aid, or remain on the scene of the crime. The event sparked a nationwide media firestorm.
In North Carolina, a road rage incident leads to the fatal shooting of a black man.
Kids here now that have to go the rest of their lives without their dad. And all we have left is all the memories and pictures and videos. Like, that's it.
For many in the city of Fayetteville, the senseless murder of yet another unarmed black man would conjure memories of high-profile slayings in the recent past. Just a year and a half earlier, the city's Market House, a nationally recognized historic landmark and former slave auctioning block, was set ablaze during protests to the murder of George Floyd. In response to civil unrest, the city of Fayetteville commissioned a Black Lives Matter street mural around the building. It would be removed after only 6 months. On January 8th, just 5 days after his murder, family, friends, community activists, and motorcycle clubs would take to Skybow Road, retracing the route of Stephen's last ride and convening at the intersection he lost his life. The rally would go on for no more than 15 minutes before tragedy would strike the city of Fayetteville once more. As the community marched for Stephen's justice, 37-year-old Jason Walker would be gunned down by an off-duty officer just 3 miles away. And just like that, both local and nationwide coverage of Stephen's murder would come to an end. Much like the blizzard that descended upon his funeral, the killing of Jason Walker would bury any further mention of his name. As unfortunate as it may be, the unspoken reality is black lives do matter, but the hands that take black lives may matter even more. Stephen Addison's killers were not men of means or status. Walker's, on the other hand, was law enforcement, a civil servant directly tied to the purse strings of the city. If a legitimate case could be established, civil rights attorneys could reap millions in settlements. With the attention this garners, news outlets could stand to make millions more in ad revenue. There will be no payouts for Addison's family. No high-priced advocates fighting on their behalf. No year-long cycles of media coverage. The only thing he has is us. Let's keep the memory of Stephen Perry Addison alive.